Oh, oops. Okay.
We'll give everyone another minute or two before we start. How's everyone doing tonight on the snowy weather? I see some thumbs up. I think Yvette, you were talking, but you're muted, so I didn't know what you were saying.
Oh, I was just chuckling like, oh, this weather.
Yeah.
You can't stop the snow. We just gotta live with it.
You're right. And the cold cleanses the germs from the air, so it is what it is.
All right, so we'll get started. My name is Jonathan Jones. I go by he, him, his, and L pronouns, and I am a graduate assistant for student engagement.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kayla Barnes. I go by she, her, hers, and I am a student event coordinator for student engagements and activities. And just to give like a little background, I've been working with student engagement activities since my sophomore year. So I think that's been 2 years now, and it's been a really great experience. And I'm really happy to share this event planning workshop with you guys. So we'll get started. Oh, okay.
So for our agenda today, we're gonna do a brief overview of the C programming planning process, the different event levels, who, what, where, when, why. So defining org programming purposes, using event checklists, importance of marketing your program, using assessments for programming, open programming conversation, what has gone well, what hasn't, virtual programming, how do we adjust assessments, and then we have a Q&A portion as well.
Okie doke. So basically, in the start of the club program planning, it's important that when you first start out with an event, you have to kind of make sure you have a space. And some of you may be familiar, some of you may not, but there is a 25 Live program, which is like this program will help you basically kind of like get a space for your event and then see if that space is available for the day of your event. You can see when a space is not available, you can see when it is available. And once you have that event planned, you have to get that space confirmed. So yeah, and then going more about 25 Live, the way this program works is that you're basically able to allocate resources into that space that you're going to have. So you can say, I want a certain amount of chairs or I want a certain amount of tables. And you can communicate with the facilities on campus to make sure that it's set up in a certain way. And usually the way that we do that is like through Visios. So after you have a 25 Live approval, then you can go on and create your event on SB Engaged. And SB Engaged is a website that a lot of programs, a lot of organizations on Stony Brook use. It's basically like a overall program of like what events are happening, what workshops are happening, what everything on campus, like what everything on campus is happening, and it's all on this site. Um, so once your event on SB Engage has been approved by your program advisor, we can reach out to your organization and further discuss the planning. This may look like how your event is going to be, like what kind of things you might need for your event, and so on. So it's really important to know that your space isn't confirmed unless you received approval on SB Engage and you meet with the program advisor. Those are two really important things that you have to do before you know your event's confirmed. And every organization on campus has a program advisor. It's really important that you are in contact with them regularly, that you make sure you come to them with any questions because I'm sure they have all the answers. And yeah, so now we'll be going to the next slide.
Oh, we can skip this one, Kayla.
Oh, I thought we took the slide out.
I thought we did too. So my question to you guys, and I want you guys to respond whether to do the chat or if you want to unmute yourself. What does programming look like within your organization? So I can give you guys a few seconds by starting off. So for us at Student Engagement, our programming is at all different aspects. Our programming is in person, hybrid, and in virtual. So for our programs in person, we're doing a max capacity of 50 people coming in. So it's usually 3 to 4 staff members and 46 students coming into our event. Depending if it's hybrid, we'll still keep with the 50 in person, but we'll have supplies for students to come pick up and use and take it back home. And for our complete virtual events, we'll have everything online. And depending if there's like a prize component, whatnot, we'll reach out to that student to figure out how it'll be delivered to them and so forth. So what does programming look like within your organization? And to just give us some background, let us know what organization, and then you can continue telling us.
I'll go first. I don't have an organization. Actually, I just saw this event today on SB Engaged, and I said I'll just pop in and see what it's about and see what I could learn about event planning. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. We have something in the chat from Werely. Oh, so we have some CPO people. Okay. And you guys mainly do virtual workshops. Do you guys want to explain a little bit more? Just so like we understand. So virtual for now, workshops and training. Okay,
That
cool.
sounds cool.
All right.
Next slide.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next slide.
Okay, doke. So basically, when you're planning an event, you have to like really think about your purpose and the process of it. One thing we learned in student engagement and activities is that it's really important to kind of know what event you want to put on, and also like make sure like your process is like, I want to find a good word, but make sure your process is like realistic. Like we all have like these amazing event ideas that are like really large, but we have to make sure like it's realistic and like within our budget, like within campus guidelines, like something that we can put on in like a good time period, you know? So one of the things that I really learned from student engagement activities is organization. Whenever we're planning an event, we always have an extensive checklist where it acts as like certain steps along the way. Like, do you have your space confirmed on 25 Live? Do you have, did you speak to any clubs that you wanted to collaborate with? Do you have like your event plan, like what's gonna happen in the event, like from the start to finish? Making sure you have these things is really important in order to make sure like your event can go as it needs to, and it's like really like a good experience for the students and anyone attending basically. So it's really important that when you first have this vision of the event, you have the purpose and you start organizing how you're going to go about that purpose and how you're going to like basically attack everything you need to make sure that event goes the way you see it in mind. Let's see.
So who, what, when, where, why? So when you think of these 5 different questions, you're thinking about date, time, and location, who your audience is, and your purpose. So just to go back to Kayla's point of like when you're doing your program, what is the purpose of your program? Are you just trying to get students to come because you want them to have a good time? Or is it a skill or a workshop that you really want students to understand? And I think pre-COVID, a lot of us had this expectation of having the amount of students like 30 plus, or for student engagement, our program attendance used to be like 200 and plus. But because of COVID, we still kind of have those same expectations. But we have to realize our purpose during COVID time is a little bit different. What was 200 back then is 50 now. And it's better to say, like, our audience, yes, is smaller, but we are reaching what we can reach at the limits and the guidelines we were given. And when you think about your date, time, and location, don't think about what only works best for you. Think about your audience as well. Like maybe they're not free on a Wednesday at 7 o'clock because they're doing schoolwork. Maybe you want to do an event Friday night at like 7 o'clock because you know students won't have time. So those are the different things you want to think about before you do your program.
Another important part I like to bring up as well, because Jonathan brought up a great point. Like because of COVID times as well, like a lot of our like students are at home. I'm at home actually right now, so I've been doing school I've been like basically doing school at home for this is my second semester now. So we've been trying to like basically advocate for like more events where like virtual, like more virtual events where students around home can attend. And we also like if we have like prizes at an event, we try to make sure like we can ship those prizes out. So it's trying to make sure that everybody feels included during these hard times and that like even though everything's kind of like, you know, in shambles right now, that they can just come to our events no matter where they are and just like have a good time for a little bit. All right. So now this is the process, and this kind of speaks more about like what I was speaking about before. This is kind of like your organization process and making sure like you have like your plan to execute so that your event can go like how you see it in mind. So here are some guidelines. You have the why and the purpose, which is like Jonathan and I said, it's kind of like wondering like what your event's going to look like, who your event's going to appeal for, like the numbers that you kind of want to get. Because of COVID, they're kind of smaller now, but making sure that we can still have like a great program for those like amount of people. And making sure that ideas are kind of realistic. Like, you know, we can't really be doing too much because of COVID and because of like other factors like maybe budget or just campus guidelines. So why and the purpose is really important to consider whenever we are thinking of an event. So now you think of the logistics. Like I said earlier, you want to make sure like you have a space confirmed in 25 Live. You want to make sure that space is confirmed for the date and the time that you are doing the event. And you also want to have backup plans. In situations like this, like for example, today has been like a really snowy day. And because of that, like an event that we're going to have tonight has been postponed to next Saturday. So it's kind of like an example of a backup plan, like because some things may go wrong, but making sure like you kind of have like a backup plan in any situation, like a rain date, you know, if it rains or something, or like a alternate date where you can like kind of put your event to if anything goes wrong on that day. So it's always important to consider things that you may not be thinking of like as you're planning the event, but it's always important to consider like if this goes wrong, like what can I do to like kind of like leeway this and like make this not so bad. So your program logistics, your program timeline, and your program chairs. For your program chairs, this is basically about who's going to be leading the event, who's going to be attacking it who's going to be attacking it head on, sorry, and who will be like your main go-to point person when like asking how this event is going. So for our team, this may look like being in contact with the vendors primarily. This may look like basically kind of organizing your own meetings with your other chair so that you guys can see like the process of how the event is going, what else you guys need to do. Just making sure that you're in communication with your team members and that you're making sure that you have like all the things that you need to do for this event done. As for the execution, so here we say take time to enjoy the hard work, engage with the attendees, observe and be organized. So yeah, I think whenever we have events, this is always my favorite part of it. Just seeing the event like really happen in front of you, seeing people enjoy it, you know, like it's really a great experience to see like an event like you have like on paper, like in person and to see it in front of you. So I think this is also a great time to like kind of go around to your attendees and ask them like, you know, like how are you enjoying this event? Like, you know, like what can we do to improve? On SB Engage, there's a feature where we have like event notifications where after the event is done, the person who went there is basically like, they're basically able to like fill out a short survey. And we use these surveys as ways to kind of like basically get feedback about your events. So we're basically able to see like what works and what doesn't work. This kind of goes into assessment, but I thought it was important to mention here. So we kind of see like what works and what doesn't work for that event. If this is an event that we can have again because it was like really popular, or if this was an event that we can like change because some students were like, didn't like a certain part of it. So I feel like that part's really important. But to finish up with execution, observe and be organized. It's always important to like think about like, you know, like what will happen at the event, you know? So like if you have like a paint event, like a painting event, it's important to always have like paper towels on hand, for example, or water on hand, just like extra supplies. So always be organized and always have like a plan whenever you have these events, like whenever, yeah. And then as for the assessment, like I mentioned before, it's really important to like kind of like take feedback from the attendees so that you can see like what works for you and like what doesn't in terms of the event. And for each event that we have, we take attendance so that we can like get feedback and so that we can also see like how popular an event is. And the way that we get feedback is by Campus Labs, I believe the app is called. And whenever you create an event through SB Engaged, there's basically like a unique code attached to it. And you're basically able to put this code into the app called Campus Labs and basically scan each student's event pass, which is attached to their Stony Brook ID. So that's like basically, these ways are basically how we kind of process the event. Okey-doke. Next slide.
So how do you stay organized? And this is a question I want to throw back to you guys, especially my CPO people. How do you stay organized with your different events and different workshops? Again, you guys can either type it out or you guys can unmute yourself and talk. Google Calendar. Okay, cool.
Good.
Anything else before we move on? Okay, the same. Google Calendar.
Yeah, Google Calendar is great.
All right. We'll move on to the next one.
Okie doke. So here's the event checklist. And this is basically just like making sure you're super organized for your day of the event. So whenever we have events here at SB, as I was going to say SB Engaged, whenever we have events here at C, we always like to have like a kind of like a day of the event checklist, like the slide is called. And it's basically making sure that we have like all our materials like ready for the event and ready and packed in a cart to take to the space of the event. It's making sure that like we have like everything that we need there, making sure they have like the supplies that we need, making sure that our staff members know who's working, making sure that just like all these little things so that and it's really important to have this so that like during the event, like there's like no hitches, like you can just focus on making sure the event goes as planned. So basically, to basically help with the details and organizing, you want to have like a day of tasks, like basically like a day of event checklist, like what can you do to make sure that this event goes well, like what do you need to do to make sure this event goes well on that day. Purchase list, like what items you need to purchase for the event. If you're doing that through a vendor, if you're just purchasing like some items from Walmart, this can go on your purchase list. Staffing, making sure people know who's working for that event, making sure people know who's not working for that event, because in some cases you might have too much staff members there, you know, people don't know who's working or not. And then for future years, I believe this one is talking about like using this event for reference in like the future. I know that for C, like what we like to do is that whenever we have an event, we always like to take pictures. We always like to like keep our events in records. Just so like we can always look back at it and say like if you ever want to do an event again, we can easily look back at that event and see what we did then and just replicate it. So the way we kind of do this is like by making sure like our purchases are kind of like in folders in Google Drive, making sure like our feedback is in folders and just making sure like whenever we can, like we can look back at that event if we ever want to replicate it again. And I think this is an example of like a spreadsheet. I'm gonna just click it to see. Can you guys still see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So yeah, this is an event. This is like basically like a example of like an event checklist of things that you like basically can like plan out. So here we can see like a title, a date, a time, a location, the event coordinator names, and collaborators. If you're collaborating if you're collaborating with any outside, not outside clubs, but like any other clubs other than your own club. Here you can see your 25 live request date, your SB engage request date, your meeting with your program advisor, your projected attendance, your actual attendance, your projected budget, and your actual budget. So it's kind of just like a good planning sheet of like things that you know. And I feel like having things like this like really helps you visualize. It makes things easier along the process. Like it just puts it all out in there. Here we have the master checklist. This is really helpful because rather than planning an event like 2 weeks before, I feel like it's really good to plan it in advance. And this really helps with that. As you can see, there's like a brainstorming. You want to have your ideas, you want to find your purpose. There's 25 live requests where you want to request your space and see if it's open for that date and time that you want to have it. Then you can spell out your necessary forms if you're having any outside acts, if you're having any vendors. If you're collaborating with any other clubs, you can also get this prepared during this time frame. And for your budget, it's really important to kind of see what budget you're working with so you don't kind of go too far like away from like your what is like really accessible for your organization. When it's about 3 weeks out, it's really important to kind of make sure your space is approved on 25 Live because you really can't have an event without your space like approved. If you're having like any outside food vendors coming to campus, I don't know how that goes during COVID. I don't know if we've been doing that. But if I know that before COVID, like if we had any outside vendors coming to campus, we had to make sure like we had a food permit, and we got that confirmed through the the health and safety at Stony Brook, which is like you can just email them like your food permit and they would tell you if it's confirmed or not, or if they need more information regarding the matter. And if you're having at-home food, you need to have like a food preparation sign on your table. If you ever make your own food for an event, it's really important. Like this is like a rule that I learned for like this is like the first thing I kind of learned, I think, at like working here. You always have to make sure, like you always say that this food was prepared by like me, by a student. That's really important. 3 weeks out, you also meet with your program advisor. Just make sure like you're planning with them, making sure that they know like what you're doing, making sure that they help you with your Visio, your resources. A Visio is basically like how your event room is going to look. Making sure your marketing is kind of there too. Marketing can look like making a flyer, promoting this event on your social media, making the SB engage, making the SB engage page is also like another form of programming, marketing. 2 weeks out, you want to just do your staffing, your budget, your SB engage. Make sure this is all updated. 1 week out, make sure your staffing is solidified. Make sure you print out the materials that you need. Make sure your SB engage page is up to date. Make sure it has like all the details there. And then a day off to set up, to take the attendance, the event. Like I said before, it's really important to set up before the event. It's really important to take attendance so they can get feedback, and it's really important to look at your event so you kind of have that feedback to look at. And these are just more slides. I don't want to go too much into it. It's kind of just like repetitive. Like this is the purchase list, like of the things that you might need for your event, your collaborators, your day of tasks, basically like what you need to do on that day of, and your staffing chart. So it's kind of just like a really big like overline of like what should kind of like, it's basically to help you like kind of have your event there. So now I'll go back to my other slide and put that back here. Okay, oops, there's that. Okay. Oh, well, it's here.
So just like Kayla was mentioning, this is an example of our staffing chart. So as you can see, like we have our time slots broken down to figuring who's doing setup, when the event is starting, who's running what area. In this event, we're giving out food, but in events during our COVID times, we do prepackaged snacks, so people are able to grab those things, and it's really made by the store, the outside companies, so everything is okay on that end.
I am so sorry. My thing just moved. I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, and here is marketing the event. So marketing the event can look like making a simple flyer if you don't have like any Photoshop skills, which is okay. A lot of us don't. But it's important that on your flyer you kind of promote the important things. You know, promote the event name, the date of the event, the time, where it's happening. You want to make sure this is like really big and like really out there so that people know like right away. You don't want to like hide it behind certain like things that's like hard to look for, you know? You want to make sure that it's like right there so that people can see like when your event's happening. So that's like kind of like more accessible. It's really important like to market your event in any way you can. You can post it on SB Engage, you can post it on Instagram, your Facebook, basically anything, and just make sure that it's like basically just promote your event so that people can like see what's happening and see like what your event is putting on. If your event relates to majors on campus, ask the departments to send an email to all their students. So yeah, personally, I'm a biology major, so I know that a lot of like biology like based clubs, either like whether it be pre-health clubs or pre-med clubs, get their events sent out within like a weekly like email. And I also know we have like a campus weekly connect where if you put your events on SB Engaged, your event also gets like sent out in that as well. So these are like important ways where like your event can get like promoted to the student body so that more people can see it and they can like basically come to all your event. There's an important note at the bottom of the slide. It says that make sure all flyers are accessible and easy to read, and be sure to include contact information for accessibility needs. So yeah, this is really important. It's really important that when going to Stony Brook University or just any place in general, it's really important to make sure like you're appealing to all audiences, no matter the difference. Making sure that if there's any like making sure that if there's any like trouble, if there's anything that you can do, like they can contact a person from the organization and speak more about it, you know? So on each of our events, we usually have like a email SEA underscore our email basically for accessibility needs or for any questions. And if you have any questions regarding an event, we kind of just like speak to them. We kind of just like help them out, anything like that. So it's really important to make sure that if you have an event that is accessible and that people can see that it's accessible to them. So just have like this little note. Okie doke. Next slide.
So using SB Engage. So as Kayla was mentioning, SB Engage, when you all events for Campus Connect listserv is pulled directly from SB Engage. So make sure you have a proper sized flyer and detailed event description. So as you can see in the first one, it just says chapter, the date and time, and the location is online. If you read this, you wouldn't know what chapter meant. Is it like a book chapter, a fraternity chapter, sorority chapter? You're very confused on what that means versus like I create coffee hour. It's like you know that you're gonna create your own coffee. It gives you the time and date, the online location, and the instructions on how to do everything. So make sure when you do your SB Engage page, it is detailed out to the max. You rather have more than less in that case.
So our programming takeaways. So here we just kind of have like an overview of like what we just went over. So work smarter, not harder. So many events, see if your organization can co-sponsor and work with different departments. So this is like one thing I love. I like love collaborating with other events, with other organizations on campus, seeing if they want to like come to like collaborate on like an event and make it like better than it can be. I think collaborating is really great because it's like you get like your usual audience as well as that audience. And maybe that audience will be interested in your events and start coming regularly too. Collaborating is a really great way to kind of appeal to more students and also just collaborate with another organization and see like what they're about and see like how you guys can like grow together. And if it works well, like maybe you guys can like do events like regularly. I know that C works together with CPO a lot, so like that's an example. Another program takeaway is beyond resources. Break down event logistics, things to think about, circle back to the why. So yeah, it's really important to like throughout all processes of planning your event to think about like why you're planning it, like why you're putting it on, just like the purpose of your event. And it's really important to like not lose focus of this purpose, to not like lose like basically as I always say, to not like go too large and like lose like and like not be realistic. Like think why you're having this event and like the purpose of it basically. It's really important to like know that like just to keep this in mind whenever you're planning. For marketing, we have think through how you will get people to the event. So yeah, for marketing, you want to make sure you have like your SB Engage page, your flyers, you're making sure you're posting on your social media, making sure that this event is like kind of promoted. Because if not, like who's gonna really see who's gonna really see more about your event and how you're gonna get the people to come to your event. Social media is basically our greatest way of communicating with students these days. We make sure to post to our SB Engage regularly so that students can see what we're doing, so that students can see that we always have programming going on, and SB Engage on Instagram is like a really great way students see that. So track attendance, take attendance using SB Engage to assess and target your future events. So yeah, tracking attendance is really important because it's really important to like see what students come to your event and maybe invite them back for like another similar event. And it's just and it's really important to see like what kind of student comes to your event. Like I think I don't want to say this for sure, but I remember like whenever we used to do like tracking attendance, we could be able to see like what student majors were coming to like more events and like basically like what major like was like more so at our events. And it was kind of really cool to see. It's not that like we were targeting like any major specifically, it was just kind of cool to see. But yeah, it's kind of just like assessing like who's like really coming to your events and who's like really like seeing you and seeing like what you're putting on. For our day of, we have don't forget about day of logistics, have a plan to keep track of tasks. So yeah, day of event is really important because you want to make sure you do everything so that the event goes as envisioned. You want to make sure that like no hiccups go on, that everything is planned, everything is accounted for. The staffing chart is a great way of that, making sure like you have like your blocks of time down to like 6 to 6:30, you're doing this, 6:30 to 7, you're doing that, 7 to 7:30, you're doing this. Making sure like your materials are all packed before the event so that it's not like a rush to like get all your materials together before like right before the event. Um, yeah, it's just really important to make sure you have all of these things down and steady so that the event can go as planned without any hiccups. And then we have our assessment. How are you gauging the success of the event? Circle back to the why. So it's really important to like to get feedback because without feedback, we don't really know how successful the event is. Our main goal is to make sure students are enjoying our events. So we want to make sure by asking them. And one of the ways I kind of like exemplified that was like through like getting feedback by like either talking to the students when they're at the event or making like a little survey. How did you enjoy this event? Having feedback like this is great because then you can see if this event was successful and if it's something that you want to do again, or maybe tweaking your next event so that you can like make it more successful and see like what you can change. Okay.
So what has gone well for your club and organization in terms of programming? So I know the three of you are all in CPO. So what has gone well for you guys? Like what programs have gone really well for you guys?
I'm not really sure because like um as interns, like we all plan our events by ourselves. So like we don't really know about other people's events.
What's RWB trainings?
That's Red Watch Band.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. I was like, maybe? Okay.
Sorry.
So they're inactive and discussion based. Okay. Sharon, I know you said that you guys all make your own programs like as interns. Like what program have you done? If you can give me an example.
So I'm a physical health peer educator.
Mhm.
So like the Protect Your Health workshops, like we make the flyers and everything.
Okay. And how have those programs gone?
Not that great.
Okay. Um, I'm sorry, I'm just asking some follow-up questions just to get to like understand it a little better. Um, what does the program consist of? I know like protect your health, but
So the one I specifically host is the flu workshop. So it's basically like encouraging people to get the vaccine, practice like precautions to prevent getting the flu, and especially like in the times of COVID, like you definitely don't want to be sick.
mhm. Okay, I understand that. I like that. I think the next slide really connects to it.
Next slide.
So what? Oh,
Do you want to?
sorry. So what have been some struggle areas for your club and organization, um, in regards to programming? So I know Sharon, you were talking about the protect your health for students to like get the flu shot and different things. And where do you guys offer that? Is it only in student health center?
Last semester there were like collaborations with CVS for like flu vaccine pods. I'm not sure if they're doing that this semester, but like there were a lot of dates last semester for that.
Okay. Because I know in the area I live in Chapin, which is a graduate area. And I know one thing that really helps is when things are able to be brought into our area because it's kind of far. If you don't know where Chapin is, it's like right by the hospital. So it's the farthest building out of all the building or quad areas. So one of our biggest hits, we got to work with student health services and we got to have a flu clinic in our MPR. And we actually had that event, I think, 2 or 3 times in the month. And I think we had a total of like 180 residents get a flu shot. in the 1 month. So maybe trying to bring it to the people. I know students are lazy. That's why I say bring it to the people sometimes. I'll be honest.
I know that for C, like one of our struggles have been like I remember especially like in the first like when COVID first happened, we try to put things online, like we were trying like our hardest to like put on virtual events so that students can like feel like it's like so like they can like still like find a way to have fun. But we found that like with having virtual events, like students like obviously like we all deal with like virtual burnout, like being on Zoom all day and then going to like a virtual event after that. So we always have like low attendance at our events at first, but it's just we try to like find like ways to like bring students to our events like any ways because like we understand virtual is not ideal. It's a huge change for us as well. But yeah, that's been a struggle area for us as well. It's just like relating back to you. Um, okay, let me go to the next slide. So assessing programs and event attendance. So this is kind of more as I was speaking about earlier. It's really important to kind of see how your event has gone after it happened. And it's kind of important to see like who your event kind of pulled, like who like the attention kind of pulled. Is the next slide talking more about this? So this is kind of like a guide on how to track your attendance at events. And it's kind of speaking about like what I kind of touched on earlier. So as I said earlier, there's this app called Campus Labs Event Check-in. You can download that on the App Store. I believe it's on Android and Apple. So once you have this app and you have created your event through SB Engaged, there's a unique access code on your event on SB Engaged. And as you can see here, this D9AE58J, this is a unique access code that when you put it in on Campus Labs, you can then start the session and basically start scanning students into the event. So the way that students are scanned into the event is that we have our event pass, which is attached to our SB Engage and our Cork and the Cork app, I believe. Is that right, Jonathan?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't scanned students in a while, being that I'm virtual now. But yeah, whenever you do this, we just scan the students into the event, and this is basically a way to kind of have our numbers and basically see like who's at our event and who's coming. And we basically just tap and check in to confirm that we'll basically just tap check in to confirm that the user's there and click OK to continue standing. Another way that you can do this is through like a USB swiper. If you attach the USB swiper to your computer and go to SB Engaged, you can basically go to select tracked attendance and you can basically swipe students in and the attendance will be tracked through there also. So these are two ways you can track attendance on your events. Either way works fine. I guess it's up to the person doing it. Personally, we try to lean more towards mobile check-in as that's more easier for us, but I believe that either way can work for your organization. It's just like a matter of like what's best for you.
So in the chat, I sent the link so you can download the Check-in Labs. That way you guys can use it if you want to do it for your own events. It's pretty simple. It's really user friendly. Everyone in Stony Brook has their own event pass. It's unique to them, so it never changes. So it's something they can keep on like their Apple Wallet. I'm gonna call it an Android wallet. I don't know what it's called there, but sound nice. Um, and it's something that they can use at every event. So whether the student has RSVP'd or they haven't, they can literally just pull it out. You can scan them, and they're in your event, and it's really user friendly to use. Would not go with the second option as much because the first one is so much easier.
Yeah. And less time consuming personally, but yeah. So next slide.
So post-event feedback. So as you guys can see on the screen, when you do your SB Engage page, before you put in your image of your flyer, there will be like an event feedback. You can select whether you want people to do like a feedback portion or not. This is really useful because students get to put back students get to put in feedback anonymously, whether like they really enjoyed the program or something that they really didn't enjoy but they went because of something else. So for instance, one of the events we recently did was a Spotify glass art, and somebody commented, "Oh, my boyfriend never goes to these events, but because it was a Spotify art glass, and because I forced them to, they really enjoyed it." So we don't know whose boyfriend didn't want to go to an event, but we knew that at least we were doing something that was popular either on TikTok, Instagram, and doing those arts and crafts, and then having people give their feedback on it is really useful, because maybe it's something we'll do at the end of the semester before people graduate. Maybe they'll do their graduation song or different things like that.
That's a good idea. That's an event right there.
And it's very relaxing. So CPO, you want to collab, we'll take it.
Why is it? Okay. So virtual programming, how do we adjust? So since I've been virtual for the last 2 semesters, this being my second semester right now, I kind of been like spearheading like the virtual programming. I kind of like been like the main person of it in regards to I'll plan it since I'm like at home on our team. So with virtual programming, we've just been trying to find like unique ways or like unique events that students want to come to. Some of our popular events include like trivia nights where we'll have like Amazon gift cards as prizes. Um, other other like virtual events we have that are really popular is like League of Legends. We have like a huge like League of Legends, a lot of League of Legends player on campus that I didn't know about, but it's really popular. And we'll have like these game tournaments online that students will really enjoy. So kind of just seeing like what your audience will like really like want to see and like what kind of virtual events they'll attend. One of the ways that we also kind of did this was that we will kind of have like a poll that we would put out to the students, and we'll ask them like, what do you guys want to see virtually? And as well as the event feedback, like after each event, after each virtual event, seeing how students kind of reviewed that event. With this feedback and with this feedback from the polls or with the feedback from the surveys, we're kind of able to kind of come into like a balance when creating these virtual programs. I think what's really successful for us personally has been like trivia nights, but also League of Legends games. I feel like we're in a good place because I remember at this point last semester, our virtual programming was really low. Um, but we kind of found how to adjust by gauging feedback and seeing what students want to see and seeing if that was like foreseeable for us. And we were able to like attack it for the most part, I think, but we're always improving. We can always adjust further. And sorry about my emails. I don't know why they're going off right now. I really apologize for that because I know it's like in the audio. Next slide.
So virtual programming ideas. So through social media. So your Instagram live, IGTV, Facebook fundraisers, TikTok should be on there as well. There's a lot of like things that come through social media that we can easily do in our own backyard, and that would be Stony Brook for us. So like socials, you can do them through Zoom, you can do them through Discord, house parties, Scribble. Those are very different tactics on how you can communicate with people. You can also just do a group FaceTime, depending on how big and how connected you guys are. Your social doesn't have to be through Zoom, and I know a lot of the times our students are zoomed out. There's enough Zoom for from a 9 to 5, well 9 to 9, because depending on how classes go. So just getting off of Zoom and being able to go on like another application or just even meeting in person really does break the ice. So some tutorials you could be like a sketch night, arts and crafts via Instagram Live or Zoom. Or for CPO, what I'm thinking is like, oh, how do you make like your own lip scrub? Different things like that. Like, what helps people in their own ways, and how can you get it through them besides doing it in person? Contests, you can promote through social media like, hey, we're doing this giveaway. To enter, you need to come to 3 of our events or different things like that. Users can use a hashtag to enter the contest and tag their accounts in your posts. So maybe, CPO do it well, something like that, something funky, something kind of exciting that you want to hashtag that is personal to you guys, and that if you use those hashtags, you can see what students are posting on your behalf. So include online instructions on the event page on SB Engage and use social media to market your events. And like Kayla was saying before, when you collaborate with people, it's not just on your social media, it's on their social media. And depending on who they're following and who's interested, the sharing just keeps going on. So you never know who you collab with, how big your event can turn out, whether it be in person or virtual.
So here we have our resources. We just have event resources. I can like click and show you, but we also have managing clubs orgs virtually. So the event resources page, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So here we have event resources page, and it's kind of just like a guideline of things that you guys can do, like kind of like virtual resources or social like resources that we could kind of like have to like little event ideas basically. So this is attached to the, I don't know if this Google, sorry, this is the wrong slide. I don't know if this is shared with you guys, but I can like send this in the chat if you would like to see it more. And we also have managing clubs and orgs virtually. Okay, so here we have like kind of like a little guideline of how you can go about managing your club or your organization. And it's kind of just like a little list of resources and tips and just like a little practice that you guys can like put in to like make it easier for on your part. So we have like host virtual meetings like on a set day that's perfect, that works for all of your staff members or your org members. You have keeping organized, whether this be something like an event checklist like we showed before, or just like a general checklist or a list of requirements that you need to like get through. You have keep members engaged. It's important to like keep up to date with your social media, make sure you're posting, make sure that you have like consistent events or just like an event every now and then. But like you're basically calling onto your audience, making sure that they're still engaged, making sure that they know what's happening, making sure that like your work isn't going like completely like underground, like just making sure that you're kind of interacting or communicating in all steps of the way. You have planned virtual events. You have some ways we can, like more ways you can think about virtual events, more tips on that. We have accessing webinars and training sessions. I think this counts as one, kind of like this workshop. We're just speaking about like ways we can kind of help you guys in the process. And I really hope that it's been helpful so far. But yeah, I don't know if this is shared with you guys, but I can like send this these links in the chat if needed. So please let me know. Yeah. And now it's time for any questions.
They can be general questions or like specific questions, maybe like how can you guys improve on your programs? Whatever you want to ask, we're here to help. Go in once, go in twice. All right, seeing that there's no other questions, this is the end of our presentation. So we want to thank you guys for coming out. And yeah, if you do have any questions later on, you can email either Kayla or myself, and we'll be happy to help.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming. I really enjoyed it. Attendance wasn't taken for this event.
But we have the recording,
No,
so
not the
if
recording.
if you do need like to show like your supervisor you were here or something, we can easily send that your way.
But thank you guys for coming. We really enjoyed it. And we probably will work with CPO again in the future. So yeah.
True.
All right. I'm gonna stop sharing this now. But let me go if you guys like need the links or anything, because I can send if anything. You can email me at my email. It's kayla.barnes. If anything, I can email any links or anything you guys need.
So there was a question for the leadership series in general. I know there's a price there are prizes / raffles. How does that work? Kayla, do you know anything about that?
No,
Okay.
I think I know what you're talking about though. I would speak. I know that Mel put this event, like she's kind of been like Mel's kind of like the chair for like the leadership conference this week. So I think she'll know more about that. I would email like because we were just like working for this workshop specifically, like not do I have your email. I can send it. But I think Mel might know more about it. I can send her email because she just emailed me like a little bit ago. Just making sure. Yeah. What's the dog?
No problem. Any other questions?